and I'm Keita from the University, and on my right side, on my left side, Mr. Kazuki Tomoto from the University, and in the left side, Mr. Kenta Yoneyama from the University. I'm trying to open this round, and the motion that this House believes that the protection of the environment should be considered a mitigating factor in sentencing eco-terrorists. I'm trying to invite the Prime Minister, Mr. Kawamori, to come out of front and present a speech with discrimination.
In this morning. And the motion is also about the environment, so we have to talk about it with UDA. I'm very glad. Yes, so the problem here is that many people are driven to the situation that they have to save themselves because the destruction of the environment is very dangerous for them. They deprive many things from them. So that is one kind of self-introduction, self-defense. And so as government, we have to protect such, we have to consider such self-defense when we decide the punishment. So we are very proud to propose this motion. First, I'd like to set the definition. This house is all country which have the court trial system. The eco-terrorist is to protect the environment. They commit a crime like disrupting the company's thing, like the building or machine or something. When the company is trying to build a dam or cutting a tree or the forest or something. Yes, the process of the deciding verdict. The verdict, and we think that the proposal saying that when we decide the verdict, this criteria, they are trying to protect the environment, can be the criteria to decide the verdict. And that is not an issue, 100%. So what we are saying that the issue that is considered to decide the verdict, we believe that is included to such issues. Yes, this is the definition. If you have any question, yes.
So, principally speaking, do you agree with eco-terrorism or do you disagree with eco-terrorism?
We agree that we agree that government should protect the people, should protect the environment, but we disagree with they are committing a crime. This is the difference. This is the qualification. Yes. So I'd like to explain first what is the self-defense. Why we can reduce the punishment by the sword. In the self-defense, what is the self-defense? For example, there is a person who is killing and who is trying to kill a person, and the person who are trying to kill can attack them to defend themselves. That is the self-defense. I'd like to explain why in that situation we can reduce the punishment. Is that the situation they are accidentally in the situation and they are driven to the situation that they commit a crime. So this is not 100% their will, but they are partially forced to attack them or forced to kill them or forced to commit a crime. So we think that is not so the intention to kill or attack such people or people or thing is totally different from other thing. Like they are trying to kill a person or attack a thing, but only by themselves. This is why we can reduce the punishment. They are partially forced. So this is the first argument why we can reduce the punishment in the case of the self-defense. So I like to next most importantly. So thank you. Why in this case the eco-terrorist is applied to the self-defense case. So I like to explain the linkage between the environment and themselves, the people who try to attack the building or the people. We think that the environment is shared by all people, and the destruction of the environment affects all people. So we think that the people living in such area or in that environment, for them, the destruction of the environment is harmful to them directly. For example, if a company try to build a dam, there's people living in there, or there's people, and of course there are some people who are against them. But in some cases, the company will try to build such the dam or such building because they claim they gain the consent from the people living there. But but there are some people who are against them because the company will give money or negotiate with them. But there are some people who are ignored, and there are some people who are against them. And we think that they have right to try to protect them. No, thank you. But they mistakenly take the way that attack the people. We think that the government we think as government that they have to be punished. But in that case, their will to protect the environment or where they live should be considered when we decide the punishment on the body. And we think so this is a linkage between the destruction of the environment. No, thank you. Destruction of the environment and the protection of themselves. It's because there's that directly harmful for them. No, thank you. We should consider about this point. So I'd like to explain the uniqueness of the environment theories. We think that there are two issues. First one, as I told you, that affects all people. About environment, in environment or in Earth, there are all people are living there. So destruction such environment affects all people, and that is very important because the people living there is against the destruction of the environment. And there's clear linkage that they are living on destruction of the environment. So we think that this is a unique reason to apply the self-defense. Yes.
So if harmed by the eco-unfriendly company is severe, so enough to be punished, they are punished already. How can you say that there is necessity for them to do so by themselves?
Here.
So my partner will explain. The second uniqueness, lastly, I'd like to explain. The other terrorists and the eco-terrorists is totally different because the other terrorists, like the political terrorists or something, are fighting by their ideology. So we cannot answer which is true because the government is taking a policy. But we cannot say which is good and which is true because that is the base thing, the ideology. But in this case, this is a fact that they are the destruction of environment. We think that the fact should be considered when they decide the verdict. So this can be the fact can motivate incentivize the people to take such mistake way. We think that issue should be considered. So we propose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Now, I'd like to call upon the leader to make a speech within 7 minutes.
Here.
Just because you believe in the eco-protection, just because you believe in Islam, just because you believe in some political policies, does not mean you can justify your intention because the result is the same to the people. Therefore, we're very proud for this motion. Based on this, I want to put 2 points. First is arbitrary criteria should not be the factor to change sentences. We say, therefore, like this kind of eco-protection intention is not good intention enough to reduce sentences. Second of all, even if that's a good intention, we have to prioritize proportionality in criminal justice system. But before that, let me rebut what previous speaker has said. Previous speaker talked about 3 points. First is those kind of people are forced to kill others in order to protect the environment. In the first place, it is not forcing, right? Because they have chosen to go, for example, go into the Sea Shepherd or Greenpeace before going into the thought, those kind of things. That's choice of themselves. Second speaker, we think emotional killing does not mean your sentence can be reduced, right? If I kill you emotionally, I have to be considered as murder. Second of all, he said, right, eco-unfriendly company are harming them. So therefore, they have the necessity to do assault the company and protect the environment. As I said in POI, what is necessity? What is the necessity? If the harm is so severe, they are punished already. Meaning the proportionality is provided. For example, the company pay money to the people sit and place of the thing if a proportionality is established. Furthermore, he said political terrorists and eco-terrorists are different. What appeal in the speaker? Because political terrorists believe in the Islamic extremist thought. However, this eco-terrorism believe in the fact that killing someone is justifiable to protect our environment. It is only ideology. We think there's no difference between political terrorists and environmental terrorists. Therefore, they tolerate their argument was fair. So moving on to their arguments. First is, we think arbitrary criteria should not be a factor to change the sentences. Just because you believe in something kind of thoughts or something kind of thing, or commit crime for the sake of those kind of things you are believing in, that does not mean that you can change the sentence, you can be justify your action. Why is that? Because we think that thought or some kind of ideology is too subjective, that differ from one person to another. We think in criminal justice system, objectivity is very important. Why is that? Because those kind of law has been made by every people in every single citizen in society. Meaning that we have to apply those kind of law that is equally to the people. Meaning objectivity is something that can be applied to every single citizen in society equally as a speaker. Therefore, we have to prioritize objectivity over subjectivity in this kind of criminal justice system.
Here.
For example, in case of artists, imagine there's artists who have been making art for 20 years, meaning this art is something equivalent to his life. However, for example, if someone comes to his home and try to, for example, snatch his art, which is very harmful for artists. However, even if this artist killed or injured this kind of, for example, snatcher, the artist has to be punished as a murderer or those who have injured others. Why is that? Because whether you believe in the art is very important, differ from one person to another. We have to proportional, we have to equally punish the person when we're talking about the criminal justice system. We think in the status quo, in case of eco-terrorism people, we think that thought is very subjective. Why is that? Of course, we agree upon the idea that protection of the environment is universally admitted to some extent. However, we think that protecting the environment by killing person is not subjective. It's a very subjective system. It's not objective. Why is that? Because on one hand, international organizations are trying to protect the environment by the consensus or expense society without any killing person. But on the other hand, they are actually believe in the fact it is justifiable for us to protect the environment by killing people. It is too subjective, not objective factor. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, we think in this punishment, we are actually punishing the thoughts or the wrong way to protect the environment, right? However, under the program, we are actually admiring those kind of thoughts. We think that's not the case. This subjective is objective one. So, how does the talk about 2 points?
For that, sir. So, we're not saying that we shouldn't punish these people. We're saying that the decision about the length of punishment should be considered as a self-defense act. So, all you're talking about is just whether or not we should punish them. That's not what we're talking about today. So, please engage on this level.
You are missing my point, and moreover, I want to talk about the proportionality in the second one. We think result should be proportionate to the length or how the long sentence is. Why is that? Because as a government, we have to protect proportionality from 2 aspects. One is rehabilitation. As a government, we have a responsibility to rehabilitate criminals and get them back to society after imprisonment. Therefore, in the status quo, we imprison someone for a certain kind of period to make them rehabilitated. What important here is those kind of sentences are decided by the professional judges who have knowledge how long sentences is just can rehabilitate those kind of people. Under their power, in the first place, they can simply reduce the sentence, meaning there's out of control of judges who have special knowledge to rehabilitate the people. As Mr. Speaker, more importantly, we think that under their program, we are actually admiring the thought that killing people for the sake of environment is justifiable. Why is that? Because under their program, they believe my sentence has been reduced because I believe in eco-terrorism, right? Because they believe in eco-terrorism, their thought is justifiable. Their sentence is mitigated. Therefore, for example, in case of self-bombing, after self-bombing happens, for example, leader of the terrorist group admire him because his action was matched the thought of Islamic extremists. Therefore, many people are accelerated to commit other self-bombing, right? Therefore, those kind of admiring circle is very vicious, Speaker. Therefore, we think because we have under the paradigm, we make them understand that ego-terrorism is justifiable. This is not a recognition at all in the first place. Second, Mr. Speaker, we think proportionality it has another value, which is retribution to the victim, Mr. Speaker. We think result is the same to the victim, right? Even though, whether you are killed by terrorism or whether you are killed by ordinary people doesn't mean you are the result of killing it changes. For example, there is a fisherman who are, for example, catching the whale. If this kind of fishermen are killed or assaulted by Shiba, which is terrorism, obviously, those kind of people are killed or assaulted, right? The result is the same. However, because they are terrorism, the family of those kind of victims have to be suffering from the less distribution. Because on one hand, their husband has died. But on the other hand, those kind of eco-terrorism has not died because they can mitigate their sentence and they can get out of prison and do great everything, right? We think in this situation, we are actually prioritizing criminals' right over the victim side. Given the fact that we have to fear the victims, we think we have to prioritize victims over the criminals. Therefore, we think this proposal actually destroys criminal justice system and therefore most important thing.
Thank you. Then I'd like to welcome this time the microphones and bring your nurse, David Sermon.
Why don't they wait for support by the government? Because government have authority to punish the company.
China's going to support these people when China could build a dam that's going to make them millions of dollars? Yeah, that's always going to happen in every case is the government's going to be on the side of the little guy, right? Because that really happens under the status quo all the time. We're talking about maybe in some cases that happens, but you know what?
participate of Greenpeace, whose lives are not threatened by the harm environment?
Their lives are threatened by the harm of the environment. If the environment keeps going on the path that it is, Earth is not going to be sustainable. If you can't grow food anymore, sit down. If you can't grow food anymore, you all die. If water levels keep rising, everyone in Bangladesh, in Venice, is going to be underwater. So how is that not a threat to your life if the place where we all live is no longer able to support our lives? Please explain that in your next speaker. And so I've actually moved on to my own argument answering this point about how the environmental problem is immediate. And so we think that it's perfectly okay for the government to allow a lesser sentence. So their final argument was about how government is going to be encouraging terrorism under the status quo, right? We don't actually think that this is going to happen. Just because if that was the case, every single person committing murder would be saying, oh, I did it in self-defense. There would be a lot more murders because people would think they could get away with the self-defense charge. No. But that's not how it works, right? Because just because you claim self-defense doesn't mean that that will necessarily reduce your punishment. But it is something that is considered, and that's the key thing here, is that it can be considered. It's not under the status quo, and that's what we're trying to change in the after plan. And so the government is not going and saying, hey, let's all commit eco-terrorism because we totally approve. The government is still saying, you will go to jail if you murder someone. You will go to jail if you cause destruction of property that is not allowed. However, we will consider the amount of time in the fact that you were defending your own right to life. And so they want to give the murder example. In some cases, the reduction of a sentence means the difference between the death penalty and life in prison. So we think if someone does actually go to the extreme step of murder, the family will still entirely be compensated because that person will spend the rest of their life in prison and just not getting the death penalty. So we don't see why this is a problem. Proportionality will still be there, but it's something, this is just another factor that needs to be considered. And so they also wanted to try and say how this is an emotional killing, or it's when it's a killing. It's not always a killing, so try to stop pretending that all environmental terrorists are just plain murders. Try to address another case that we gave you, please. And so it is an emotional killing, and that's the exact point. He's trying to say, like, everybody murders and everybody murders the same, but that's why there's different degrees of murder. There's first-degree murder, second-degree murder, third-degree murder, self-defense, manslaughter. There's many degrees of murder. We always consider motivation. We consider if someone feels like when someone cheated on their lover and was driven into a rage, we take that into consideration and give them a lesser sentence. So why can't we do that in this case? If these people honestly feel it's self-defense, why can't we consider that? You need to prove that, please. I don't think you can, though.
Thank you. I try to welcome the field of opposition in order to make your remarks. Thank you.
They only told us that the environmental terrorism is a completely same situation with the self-defense, because their life is actually directly threatened by the people who, for example, destroy the environment, for example, the government or the company itself. However, we don't think so. The main people actually, there are many ways for such kind of people to take in order to protect themselves or protect the environment, which concerns themselves, right? So we don't think it is so urgent problem on that kind of people, and there are actually many ways to take, but to kill such people or destroy other people's property. I don't think it's proportionate. I don't think it's proper or sufficient or adequate way to do the purpose, even if we achieve that purpose itself is somehow valid. Okay. So first of all, let me give the basic statistics mentioned, and secondly, I will construct my partner's arguments and I need some examples. So first of all, they told us that actually the environment is actually destroyed and their life is threatened, so it is the same with the self-defense. However, we don't think so. Even if the environment, for example, around them were destroyed by the sunlight, there are a lot of means for them to take in order to keep themselves from that kind of destruction, right? The first example is that actually they can sue the company or sue the government, and they can they can use the criminal judgment in order to punish that kind of company or that government who are trying to destroy the precious environment. Right? Actually, actually such kind of huge destruction is illegal in many countries. So there is a way of going to the court and going to the justice for that kind of people. So there is no need to no need to positively think that this is a self-defense. And also, we are trying as hard as possible to protect the environment. Everyone is trying actually. So for example, we are considering about introducing the CO2 emission tax, or non-governmental organization or non-profit organization is actually trying very hard to protect the environment. And also, there are many people who are doing lobbying activity in order to make the law or some regulation in order to protect the environment, which is very necessary for that kind of people. So, considering all these kind of facts, why can you say that the terrorism, killing people, or destroying the very precious property of other people, for example, the building of the company, or the other kind of things, is the only way to protect themselves? So, self-defense case is, of course, the self-defense, right? So there is a strong danger of being killed by someone, and they have actually weapons, and they might be killed. So they kill that person and protect themselves. However, the situation is quite different, right? As I told you, there are a lot of other means to take. So we cannot say this is an urgent problem for them.
Here.
So, and actually, why we have to keep the environment? Of course, to protect the people from the destruction of the environment or contamination of the environment. And actually, what they do is to kill someone or deprive the very important human rights from them. So we say that in terms of the victim feelings or in terms of the proportionality, it is quite unjustifiable. So the stance is quite contradictory, because in order to protect people, they kill other people, right? It is quite contradictory, and there is no way to positively consider this kind of intention, right? Okay, so let me reconstruct my partner's
Before that, sir.
Yes, Mom?
Please engage in our case where you're like a poor rural farmer in China. The government is not on your side. The business is not on your side. You have no one to lobby for you or to help you. Please engage that case and prove that.
Even in such cases, there are still a lot of ways, right? If they can appeal the severe situation from the internet, of course, for example, they have much power to spread their opinion through the internet from the Twitter, Facebook, and so on. So they have much way to let people know this situation, even if the government or the company are depriving the rights of the people, right? So we cannot say that killing massive amount of people or destroying the property is the only way. It is quite unrealistic. Okay, so let me move on to the reconstruction. So, okay, and yes. So my parents told you the importance of the proportionality. Actually, what is the punishment? The punishment is to punish the people who have taken the wrong way to achieve their purpose, right? So, for example, if someone will discover the thief is, as my parents told you, the precious item, we are not allowed to kill that person. It is because to stop the thief, actually they do not have killed at all. We only have to call the police and take such kind of way. So it's very the thought or the purpose or political purpose or other kind of things does not deserve not any admiring or the reason to mitigate the punishment. It is actually it is the punishment towards the people who have taken the wrong way, right? So actually, we don't take such thoughts or purpose into any consideration in the punishment, right? So, for example, every single people think it's important to protect the environment, and many people think it is important to protect the environment. However, just thinking that the protecting the environment is very important does not deserve any admiring, right? So, for example, many people are actually actively doing a lot of activity through NGO or NPO. Such kind of people deserve the admiring or other kind of rewards, right? So, consider today's motion's case. So they kill and they go against the social contract and they commit crime, which is actually very they're going against the social contract and the criminal justice system, criminal law, which was represented by the all nations people, right? So the law is not allowing you to kill anyone for any reason, right? So actually they are going against the social contract. However, just because they have the thought or purpose to protect themselves, why we can say that we have to positively take this factor into the consideration and we mitigate the punishment to help them. So there is no reason to take this kind of purpose into positive way and mitigate the punishment. So for these reasons, we probably oppose.
Here, meeting your original try to welcome the government leaders. We come to form under their speech with if they want to solve such situation from the beginning,
they chose the peaceful way because the terror needs much time. Terror needs much money, right? So from the beginning, before they do terror, they do negotiation, they do the activity, also on. So, but even if they do succeed, they cannot achieve the goal. They do terror, right? So on that situation, the argument totally cannot stand. And from the beginning, even if there is other choice, self-defense case applicable later, please. Okay, please imagine the case that someone, okay, you are killed by someone. Okay, if you think rationally after that situation, okay, there are possibilities to alternative way. For example, you can escape, or you can kick, or you can duck, and you can save. But that situation is an emergency for them. So government not consider about the existence of alternative way, right? So on that situation, even if there is alternative way, there are other choice. That if the government or if the law consider that situation is very dangerous for them, the self-defense choice cannot applicable. So on that situation, this case apply the dismotion because the please imagine the destruction case, please imagine the nuclear power plant case, please imagine the dangerous electricity case, right? Because people think, okay, that is cause direct harm to my life. If there are dangerous things, my family or my life are threatened in the danger. So on that situation, clearly this case applicable self-defense. On that point, as long as they admit the self-defense case, they have to admit this case and they have to applicable this case to self-defense case. This is my first point. So let me move on to my second point. My second point is that we collapse proportionality and criminal justice or not. We never say we collapse the criminal justice, right? But under status quo criminal justice, criminal justice admits self-defense, right? So within the self-defense, we try to apply this case, right? So we didn't deny the objective review. Okay, there are four misunderstandings that we justify the terror. We never punish the way to terror. But Margaret particularly mentioned that we punish the way to terror. We punish they choose the way. We punish they choose the terror to expand your opinion, to attack the government. So on that point, court and government never ignore the subjective review, right? So on that situation, we never collapse the criminal justice. And proportionality point, on the proportionality point, there are whole assumptions coming from the Prime Minister, leader opposition is about rehabilitation. Okay, after conduction, the quality of rehabilitation totally collapsed. Sorry. So, but okay, what rehabilitation should be? What rehabilitation stands for? Rehabilitation to reduce the criminal's mind, right? Rehabilitation change the criminal's mind. If the criminals have, I want to kill more people, rehabilitation is for change their mind because the governmental law is the change their minds and become peaceful society, right? So on that point, my another person clearly mentioned their only incentive is the change the such problem, right? So on that situation, there are high possibility after terror they are achieving this goal, or after terror they give the opinion to the government. So on that situation, compared with the other criminals, there are low possibility to they have huge incentive to again terror, right? So on that situation, the point of the proportionality or the admiring point, we never deny this case. We totally admit status quo criminal justice and proportionality, but this case is totally self-defense case, so we justify today's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Now just to go upon the position brief, deliver the remarks within 7 minutes.
スーツ着たらなんか2回ぐらいかっこよく見えるんだけど、普段はそんなに思わなかったけど、いつも大事だから人の見た目が大事だよね。服って大事だよね。
affirmative bench, why sustaining Dorothy is something as valued as the precious life of a human being, and such why such ideology can override the innocent people's lives. We think that they cannot confirm this point. That's the reason we think that self-defense point cannot stand at the end of this debate. As a opposition whip, I have three things to tell you. What is that? What is the egg terrorist? Second is that the intention of the criteria. Third is that the result of the criteria of the function. So let me explain number one. They define this point saying that we cover this motion in a fair election. So we think that the third party is out of the debate from the first beginning, and they only talk about that. They only talk about that they are not able to. They only talk about the China authority case, but that's not the act of terrorism. Because such people are assisted by the mafia, etc., etc. So we think that that's just ordinary terror, Mr. Speaker. So we think that that's not eco-terrorism. Eco-terrorism is that group of terrorists who unite each other with ideology to want to protect the environment. And even if that's the case, even that's the rare case, why majority stream that Sea Shepherd or Greenpeace case can be ignored completely in this debate? Because that Sea Shepherd has so much influence, right? If we have only one member of Sea Shepherd, people can kill the people, innocent people, in order to save the situation. We think that our case cannot be ignored in this debate. Okay, I want to go to the second intention. Sorry, sir. They said that intention is something important. Why environment is so important, we never heard from affirmative bench. Why ideology is so important, we should admit the right-wing people to kill the canal because they are so directly connected to their ideology. We can never ever heard from the justification to do the motion. And we think that intention itself cannot be the criteria already, because punishment should be based on the objective criteria as much as possible. Because punishment is something to restrict your whole life and to affect the whole of your life, such influence itself cannot be replaceable by the government. That's the reason why we think that we should guarantee the objectivity itself. So actually, we can guarantee the objectivity itself under the status quo. Why such objectivity should be distorted by the just ideology? That's the reason we think that intention itself cannot be the criteria. Even if intention is the important, we should separate good intention and bad intention. Never ever refuted by the side of the house. Madam, good intention is done to avoid bad situation. We can mitigate the sentence when the accident of the car driving. If such people have much attention to avoid the crisis itself, we can mitigate the sentence. Because such care itself is based on the good intention, Mr. Speaker. So if people have the good intention to avoid such very serious case, we can mitigate. But on this case, such terrorism is completely based on the malicious intention because they completely ignore their part, completely ignore the other people's life, precious life. We think that such things cannot be applicable, cannot be allowed in this case. So we think that at the end of this criteria, their second amendment cannot stand completely. I want to move on to the second. Before that, the second result itself can be the criteria or not. Before that, okay, madam.
Okay, as I said in my speech, if we don't ever consider criteria in a sentence, why are there different degrees of murder? Why are there different degrees of murder in the criminal justice system if we never consider circumstance? All we want is for you to consider the circumstances regarding the environment that made these people killed.
If the people kill the people in order to defend themselves, it's okay to mitigate. But they never explain why only sustaining the dolphin, why only sustaining the whale can be as deserved as the human life itself.
Here.
So even if such intention itself, to some extent, is important, result is more important. We cannot justify the crime, even though such criminal is
to the Sea Shepherd, that's the reason we think that their silent canals cannot stand at the end of this day. And they said that there's an alternative way cannot be workable. But we couldn't go to demonstration, the forming NGO or having the demonstration is so effective to the point the previous speaker said that that's not workable. But even if that's the case in the past, we think that now government has an incentive to have the negotiation. Because actually, because the Sea Shepherd, many people live in the state of their own life, and government want to support from the people in the society. Of course, government has negotiations to suppress or to negotiate, has an incentive to have the negotiation, to reconcile, to have minimize of the people in order to save the domestic people. So we think that now government has the incentive to have the negotiation, such Sea Shepherd member just neglecting to have the effort to have the other alternative way. And they say that that's a first choice. Mr. Speaker, pay attention for the victim that the first choice, Mr. Speaker, because the victim cannot be choose to be the victim because such things is so unpredictable and such and punishment is the only way for them to retribute or to revenge for such people, the criminal. But the criminal actually consider and actually choose to have the criminal. The older people are so reluctant to have the criminal commit a crime. So committing a crime is with a high burden, Mr. Speaker. Because we have the high burden, such people have the plenty of opportunity to think about whether they commit a crime. So we think that sadness of the victim, of the people, the family of the victim cannot be replaceable, and it's the only way we should not disturb the criminal justice system. At the end of this debate, they just round down the debate, and we think that Harvard service is so big, even that's the case, we should not ignore our case. That's a very clear reason the team should go to the quarter final, semi-final is our side. Thank you.
Yeah.
In your position B, I would like to go upon the leader of all in order to summarize this debate within 4 minutes.
Here.
Mr. Speaker, it is very strange for us to hear. On one hand, they said in the definition, we're going to take this one in the country which have fair trial. On the other hand, the main case is only about autocracy like China, a African nation, which has no fair trial. Never engaged on the side of the Speaker. Even though I will try to point out this point POI, DARA, and the government did not take any POI at this point. Therefore, we did propose this motion. I have 2 points to talk about. First is whether this eco-terrorism can be justifiable on valid criteria to this mitigate sentences. Second is proportionality and self-defense. First of all, the criteria to mitigate the sentences. We think the criteria should be objective. Objectivity means, as I explained, that can be applied to every single person equally. Simply because we have to treat the citizens equally, because we are supported by them equally, Mr. Speaker. Without no engagement, they said those kind of people are forced and emotionally killing someone, assaulting or bombing the buildings. We think emotionally killing or emotionally assaulting someone does not mean you are sentence can be reduced, right? We don't hear any response from this side. We say, for example, in case of artists, as I explained in the first argument, even though the art that is almost equivalent to the lives of the artist is destroyed by someone, the artist has no justification to kill someone and have not mitigated sentence in this scenario. We think there's no response from the side to this point. Therefore, in this case, a particular case with eco-terrorism, the eco-terrorism thought is purely subjective, which is not consented by people. Because on the one hand, as I in the first argument, international organization making a scheme to protect those kind of environment with very peaceful way. On the other hand, they subjectively think that it is legitimate for them to kill people in order to protect the environment. Truly subjective criteria confident reason to mitigate sentences. No response from the side. Second goal, proportionality and self-defense. We said, as a government, we have to provide proportionality in the criminal justice system for 2 reasons. One is rehabilitation, second is distribution. We say, they say, as far as rehabilitation, right, people will not, right, for example, do crime again after getting out of jail. We are not saying that kind of thing, right? We are saying that we have, from the principle, from the conceptual rehabilitation, we have to deny those kind of thoughts, right? Actually, because this kind of eco-terrorism can be the reason in this case to mitigate sentence to justify the crime. So we think that's a problem. They said self-defense, this is self-defense because their life are threatened. For the first reason, government doesn't work. As I further explained, even in autocracy, there are many ways. For example, our NGO in the African nation, right? This NGO is gathering money from people and trying to put the environment correspond. Speaker, as I said in the introduction, that's out of date according to the definition. They are actively making the second reason why we can say that self-defense is that in the future, because of the harmful environment, our lives might be harmed. We think, as I said, as a further explained, self-defense is allowed in the situation. Your lives are threatened urgently, not in the future, Mr. Speaker. We think that's not the conception of self-defense in the first place. On the other hand, we have already told you, retribution is very important, right? Because who the perpetrator is doesn't change your mind, Speaker. Doesn't change your result of being killed or being assaulted. As I explained, in case of fishermen who have been assaulted by sea shepherd, the family of fishermen have very severe antipathy towards those kind of criminals. On one hand, their father is dead. On the other hand, the perpetrator is living, right? Because of this kind of reduced sentence. We think that's the way for government to go. We think we don't hear any indigenous modern side to approach that because they are talking about the parallel law, right? Which is out of respect. We think the case of stand at all in the first place. Therefore, we're very proud of those small things.
Thank you, Leader Obo. I would like to welcome the Prime Minister in order to summarize the debate within 4 minutes. Here.
We believe that the motivation or incentive to combat crime is an issue that should be considered when we sentence the body, because they are in the circumstance and they are partially forced by in the circumstance. So we think that this is to follow criminal justice, we should consider that point. But they said that there is a victim that will start by reducing the sentence punishment, or we need a subjective view. But they are opposing to the logic of the self-defense or the incentive. That is a very important issue to consider about the verdict. So according to the UT's analysis, every murder it should be punished in the same amount of punishment. But we think that the difference of the punishment should be decided by motivation. That is definitely the issue that we should be considered when they decide the verdict. So we are very proud to propose this motion. Firstly, I want to explain why this case is self-defense and why such thought can be applied to this motion. We think that the motivation is very important, as I said, and they try, because their motivation, the eco-terrorists, is they try to protect themselves, their living place, or their food, what they eat, or something. This is from the environment, this is from the destruction of environment, so they try to save themselves. But we think, their response to this point is we need the objectivity when we decide the body. But yes, it's true. But in the court, that is the objective view, because that body is decided by the court. And what we are saying, the court, the judge should consider about the motivation. This is not the subjective view, because the motivation or intention are viewed or judged by other people. This is the objective view, so there's no problem. And this is to keep the proportionality of the law. The judge should decide the time to rehabilitate it. But motivation is the issue, as my partner said, because the motivation is not horrible. They have some motivation that relate to the time that should be that they can rehabilitate it. So we can keep the proportionality. And lastly, as they said, there's other way, but they take this case. So that is not they take that way. That is the attack to others. So this is unjustifiable. We think that as I said, we agree that they mistakenly take the way attack. So we punish them. we don't say they are innocent, but we punish to this point. But we are saying is reducing the punishment by viewing by seeing such motivation is justifiable. So this is why we're proud to propose this motion. Lastly, I will explain the harm after reading the proposal. They said the harm after reading this proposal is the inspired terrorism. But we think that, for example, we think that in the status quo, the random killing and intentional killing is different. But making such difference cannot inspire others because that decision is based on the rational thought or rational consideration. So there's a difference. So they didn't explain why this is harm. And they told the victim will suffer because the punishment is reduced. But they are only saying about the case that there's victim, murder. But this is not the case because there are many examples like attacking other things like building of the thing. This is the first refutation. And secondly, that we are even though the case that there's victim, there's murder case, we think that yes, they are already punished, but that decision to punish them should be decided by the issue of motivation. This is our argument, so I like it, so we are very proud of proposing.
Thank you, Prime Minister.